Hi. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show you how exactly to get this glaze effect. And we're just gonna chat while I do it. But I wanted to show you, these are the glazes that I'm using for that one combination. It's gonna be a base of chun plum. On top of that, we're gonna layer seaweed. And on the rim, I will show you the aventurine and then my little trick with oatmeal at the end. Okay, so yeah, let's get to it. Hey guys, so I'm gonna talk to you about glazing. I'm gonna go through how I glaze this, like slower than I normally do. So let's talk about this pot. This combination, it really, I think when I'm picking glazes for a specific pot, I always look at the shape of I look at the shape first of the piece that I want to glaze, and I kind of figure out, I'll think about it. I'll visualize what colors I want that piece to be. If it has a nice shape, if it's not just straight up and down, if it has some curves, any runny, flowy glazes on a piece like this, where it has that hourglass figure, it comes out so wow, because of the shape, right? So I'm gonna put this exact glaze combination on a hand warmer mug, which is this. Okay, and there's really no curves to it or anything. It's pretty it has a little button, but it doesn't have any sexy curves. So it will look different, right? It's not gonna be it's gonna have a different look because it's gonna be more straight down rather than this curvy deliciousness. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna glaze this piece in this combo and just show you how I applied it, because that matters. The application process matters. So for example, let's dissect this. So when I glazed this piece, I left the top rim where you see the black aventurine. I left that raw. And then from here, pretty much, let's say about where you see the purple, you can kind of see a purple color. From about there, I glazed the whole piece with 3 times of chun plum. Okay, I let that dry. So I did 3 good coats of chun plum. And then I did 3 coats of seaweed on top of the chun plum. But when I apply the seaweed, because it runs so much, I did one whole coat over the chun plum. And then I did the second coat of the seaweed to about here. Okay, and then the third coat of the seaweed I did to about here. So that's called staggering your glaze. If you have a runny glaze, I like to stagger it, especially if I'm going to be loading the top with glaze, which is what I like to do to get drips. So it's safer, especially if you have a taller piece. You want to load up your runners on the top, so it has plenty of room to move and drip and ooze, And again, the shape will what's the word? It will highlight the shape even more. So, all right, so there's that. There was something else I was just about to say. So this is a taller piece than, say, this, right? You can see the difference. This is a short little mug or whatever, and this is really tall. So when applying a lot of glaze on the top so it can run, you will, what I do is on the taller pieces, I can go down further, right? Because there's more room to run. Whereas if I'm doing a drippy glaze on a shorter piece, I'm only gonna go to, like on this one, if I do go drippy, I'm only gonna go like a tiny bit. Because you have to think of the glazes when they're in the kiln, right? That's how I always visualize it. The heat is so hot and it makes the glazes melt, and they think of them as dripping down, right? So after you get a little familiar with your glazes, you'll know which ones like run and which ones don't, which ones are more stable. So anyway, so on this small one, I would go to about here. So I think that's a little bit helpful for beginners when you're learning how to glaze and to get like really cool glaze effects by layering and adding multiple layers of different glazes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start glazing, and I'll talk to you along the way. But one last thing, so I have these paw print things that I'm glazing for somebody that I know. Last summer, actually, their dog passed away, so I offered to do their paw prints, so for Opie. So for example, like if I put a bunch of runny glazes on this, and when I fire it flat, it's not going to move because it's flat. It might a tiny little bit, but so there's just, you need to keep those things in mind for movement, like a flat piece, even a plate with a rim. Even the rim's not going to move much because there's not much of a dip like there is in a bowl from the rim down, you know? But as a matter of fact, I am going to try to glaze these standing up, like I'm leaning, and maybe get some drip effects on these. I have 4 of them just in case like I mess up or they don't come out good. So I got 4 to play with. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of show you the difference between like a flat piece and a short piece and a tall piece when layering and looking for that drippy, like desired effect. All right, so I'm gonna go get my banding wheel and some brushes, and I will be right back. I also just want to mention real quick about firing, what cone you fire to, because that also makes a huge difference. I used to fire to a cone 5, and I would notice that I'd have to put way more layers of glaze to get them to run until I figured out that I should probably just fire to a cone higher. So I started firing to a cone 6 because it's hotter and it makes everything melt downwards, melt more, you know, than like a 5. So I bet if I put this in the kiln at a 5, I may have gotten some runs to about here, and they look a little different. I wish I had something to show you the difference, but regardless, if you are firing to a 5, maybe you have to, you know, add a few more layers, or you know, you could always use like runnier glazes and just more layers. But with the 6, I tend to get way better runs because it's hotter. Although my kiln is not firing 100% properly, I'm gonna actually fire this next load to a 7 just to see. I think that's where it needs to be like a true 6. We'll see what happens with that. So we did do a diagnostic test on it, and it's running all perfectly. So it's just an old kiln. So we'll see what happens at the 7. I'm a little nervous, but you know me, I like to try things, and I'm a risk taker, so it's worth it to me. But I'll use cookies. So anyway, think about your cones and what you're firing to. That's also super important. Okay. All right. I don't even know if I'm gonna need my banding wheel, and this is from like, I don't know, 1980, because I guess I'm old. No. So I've got my Chun Plum, and let's get started. I'm not sure if I need the banding wheel, but if I do, it's here. So I like to put my hand in like this. Makes it so much easier. My husband has like 1980s playlist on. He's so funny. So it makes me want to dance in the background. All right, so we're just gonna slap this on. I wax the bottom, obviously. So, for any beginners out there, when you get your brush like loaded, like this, say, you know, try not to put a lot of pressure. Just go light pressure. So that was a very light pressure, and you can see how thick it is versus like, watch this. This is a harder pressure, and it like, I don't know if you can see the difference, but probably not. But you know, you get this kind of look, like, you know, you don't want to be pulling, like wiping your brush off. You want the glaze to be thick when applied. Not too thick, but like just a light pressure. You'll get the hang of it over time, but. So now I've got to get inside the hand warmer part. I don't know if you can see. I'm just gonna slop it in here as such. It's kind of hard, like filming and like trying to focus on glazing, but I want you guys to be able to see. I did have to thin this Chun Plum out too, because it was really thick, which happens when you have glaze for a really long time that you don't use too often. It can get dry, so you just add some water. I mix it up. If it needs like a harder mixing than like my brush, I'll have like a little like food processor thing, like handheld, that I'll put right in there, and it works amazing, but it's a pain in the ass to clean it. So I don't know, I don't like to clean much. I'd rather be creative. Okay, we're gonna use the banding wheel now. So I'll always like kind of go like really soft and light around, just to like even out any like unevenness. This doesn't matter much on this because it's going to be all drippy and moving with other glazes anyway, but for full coverage you just want to make sure. I'm going to stand up and get in here. Shoot, I wasn't thinking. I forgot. I'm going to, I didn't want to, I didn't want to paint the rim because I wanted to leave it empty. And I'm gonna wash this off. I'll be right back. Good save. Like, I would have just kept going with it. So anyway, I washed off the rim portion. So I'm going to like leave this much, you know, this little lip exposed. And I'm gonna do that at the end. I'm gonna put the black aventurine on that. And then you'll see, and then I do something with the oatmeal. But there's a reason for this, to get that contrast. You know, like if I just like kind of go over, if I went straight up to the top with the chun plum and then layered it with the aventurine, it would be a little bit different effect. I wanted like a deep, sharp contrast of the darkest like color here, and then you know, this lighter color underneath it. It just makes it pop to me. That's what I wanted. And this is what the black aventurine looks like, by the way, all by itself. This was about 3 or 4 coats. You have glitter, but you also have these like crystallization, like it almost looks like the universe or like the cosmos. I don't know. It's interesting. But I need to sand the bottom because it's scratching this, I noticed. So, but anyway, all right, back to glazing. All right, so I'm gonna leave that like that and get back in here and be mindful. I'll probably just draw a line like so I know where to stop. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know, I'm just doing a little demo. Because a lot of people like ask me like how to, it's just so much easier to like show you how to get things to flow and my thought process along the way. I feel like I'm in high school right now with this music. These are kind of hard to get to, like, to get underneath this handle part on the inside. Okay, good enough. Good enough. All right, last coat of the chun. Okay, it's time for seaweed. I'm gonna apply it just above the bottom. I'm gonna leave some of this chun plum exposed. So you'll see. And I'm going to go in like a random line like that. Another thing to keep in mind is anytime you, on a handle, or like this is kind of like a handle, but anytime, handles always run because the glaze gets stuck. So for example, this here, when I go to glaze the handle, a lot of the glaze will pool where you attach here and here, and it'll like run down the sides. It gets like stuck in there. So personally, I always try to do like 2 coats in that area, and then I'll go like heavy on the 3rd in this area. But I just try to avoid those like joints because that's where you're gonna get running. It happens all the time. So on this one, I know these corners will be where the glaze kind of catches and pools and so forth. So I'm gonna be mindful of that and go light around those areas. Because again, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of the shape and how the glaze will run down the pot. It's gonna follow, it's like water following a river, right? Like it just goes down in the path of least resistance, I think. So just think about that. Think about how the glaze is gonna run down your piece, right? And all the obstacles it goes over. That made sense to me. I don't know if that made sense to you, but so. Maybe I will use this now. Maybe this is better. It's so, maybe I should move the angle of the camera. I don't know. Let's try this. Now I'm gonna get inside, get in here. And again, I'm gonna be real careful with that. The first coat of the seaweed I'm not too worried about. It's like the second coat. But see how the glaze, like it wants to pool right in this area. And that means it's gonna drip. So you just have to be careful of those things and go light in those areas. And I always like wipe my brush off really good so there's like not a lot of glaze, and go back in and kind of like take some off, you know, or I'll even use my finger in the spots that I'm concerned about. I'm looking at this to see, I may even just go a little bit lower because maybe like right there. I'm not slopping it in. All right, maybe just a little more. Yeah, that little like crevice like scares me a little. And this is like, I don't know if it's, I think that's okay. Maybe just a little like, it's a little bare on that first coat of seaweed down there, so I'll just give it a little dab. A little dab will do ya. A little more will screw ya. That's what Matt always says, and it's so true with everything. All right. Just kind of wiping my brush off closer to the bottom. So it was a really light one coat, so I really didn't add much, so. Okay, so let's do the inside. The second coat of seaweed. All I need is you. I love the 80s. I'm not gonna lie. Love it. Some of it. I like it when it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm getting tired. It's like a dance party in the studio. Woo! I know you guys feel me, you know? Okay. All right, so that's the second coat of seaweed. So I'm gonna set that off to dry and then I'll be back for the last coat. Okay. Do what? Uh-huh. It wasn't on. I did the third coat.
Edit out?
It wasn't on.
Oh, you self-edited?
So this is the third coat. I put it to about here. Okay. 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 So it's the next day and just getting ready to run out the door for a final walkthrough on a house that I'm selling. So I wanted to just get the fun part started. So really I'm gonna add this black aventurine to the top here, the raw part. Right. So I'm gonna overlap just slightly onto the seaweed. Let me stand up. Just a little overlap, not much. And it doesn't have to be even. And I'm gently just putting my brush down lightly. Not even like brushing, I'm almost like dabbing softly. Just a little overlap. Let that dry while I do the inside, which I can be more generous on the inside. So I don't know if I'm trying to get you to see it. You'll see when I get to your side of the screen. I'm gonna go just a little more overlap on the seaweed because if it runs, obviously it won't run onto the shelf on the inside. Okay. So that's coat 1 of the aventurine, black aventurine. So now let's do the second coat on the outside. Dries like fairly quickly, so I might even be able to get the third coat on before I have to leave. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, so the third coat, I'm going to apply. Now, if you want to get some specific ensure, which I can assure you that there will be more drips on this, just with this combo, but if you wanted to have like a little more of the black aventurine drip down, you can add like these little tiny like extra like blobs of the glaze. I'm going to avoid that in this area because like I said earlier, that can really like run right off the pot. So like I could just go like this, like literally like wipe my brush off a little bit and just like leave a little like extra glaze there. I'm not going to, like on this, I did that, but in a bigger version because it was a bigger pot and it had more room to flow down. But with this, I'm just a little nervous because it's like shorter and there's not as much room for the glaze to go down. So I could even like add just a little more like this. Yeah. See that? It's just that extra, it's almost like a fourth coat in that one area. Now that, once that hits the oatmeal, which I'm going to apply when this is dry, that's definitely gonna make a nice long drip. You can also take your brush, and I'll do this on the inside, just take your brush and load it up and go like that. And you'll see, you know, in like 30 minutes, it'll run down the pot. And when that gets fired, that'll be a nice long striation of this glaze. So you do that as many times as you want. So, okay. So here it is. If you look closely, you can see where I added a little extra. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it will when you see the fired piece. But see that little extra on the rim? Just that little bit will run, especially when it meets the other glazes. And especially because I'm going to apply oatmeal just right below the rim in a like chunky kind of application. You'll see, once this is dry, that's the last step. But like, see that extra like blob? So just imagine those extra little dabs are going to just add more drips. And the inside, I don't want to, well, I guess I could show you, but do you see how that ran? I don't want to like tilt it because then it's gonna like move because it's not dry yet, but just for the sake of the video, all I did was like basically just dip my brush and like, so that'll be cool to see. So yeah, so the black aventurine you do three times, a little bit of an overlap onto the seaweed, and then you can go back in and just put some more like globs of it wherever you want. You don't have to do that either, it still will run, but I like to live on the edge, so yeah, so I'm gonna run to work and then I'll be back to add the oatmeal. All right, we're live. All right, so it's time for the oatmeal. And I just refilled it. Matt refilled it to the brim. But all right, so I just have this like random brush, nothing fancy, just something small to like. We're only gonna put it like right underneath the rim, and I don't brush it like smooth. I just like, so my oatmeal is like this thick. I don't know if that's too thick or whatever, but that's how I like it. So I'm just gonna grab some on here and I'm just gonna go boop, like all uneven, like just underneath. Yeah, it doesn't have to be even, but I'm just like globbing it on. Like so. And then we can discuss. Just boop. And I only do it once, like, unless my oatmeal is thin and I want it to be more like, more blobs of it. Always have to double check that like the camera's on, because sometimes like I record and then I never recorded, so. Okay. That's pretty chunky, you know? See? Trying to get it to focus. So see that chunkiness? I may even like just go through and where there's like a thin spot, just add a little more like this to that area. That seems pretty good. I think I'm gonna definitely do it on the inside. Same thing. I don't have to be like so close to the top on the inside because it can run in the inside, obviously, and not like stick to the kiln shelf. Oh, Matt's trying to be so quiet.
Might be loud.
Yeah. No, I'm almost done. I could hear you like
Sorry.
being so quiet, and I'm like,
Trying.
I know, and I felt bad.
Okay. Do that.
Almost done. All right, so it's all chunky inside too, see? All right, so that's it, right? That's how you glaze this. So let's just end this with a quick, let's see if you can have this new stand. All right. So, do you see how, I'm gonna try to explain this. Do you see how the top here, so you've got that black aventurine, right? And then you can see where the oatmeal, that like line that I just dabbed on, you can see where it starts to transition. So if you can notice, some of the shorter striations from the black aventurine was the part where it was just brushed on like kind of evenly without drips. Now, the longer, I'm trying to find like a good example, like say right here. This was like a heavier drip of the black aventurine that I did on this rim. Remember, I did a couple of areas of the rim part with like a fourth heavy blob or like an extra few dots. That's like what you see here, right here. So that extra like layer or blob of the black aventurine catches the oatmeal, and it like then catches the seaweed, and you get that long striation. There's one right here as well. And so the purple underneath the aventurine, the black aventurine, that's where the oatmeal meets, black aventurine meets oatmeal meets seaweed with the chun plum underneath, which is like vague in there. But if you saw this in person, you could see up close that there is some pink underneath. So I'm just trying to, yeah, like right there. See? So I just wanted to kind of try to explain my thought process and how these glazes like interact with each other and why the application matters, like the application process. So instead of just like painting that oatmeal on, I did it globby and randomly. So I don't know, just so it would be like uneven, thicker in some areas, thinner in others, just to give more dimension, more contrast to the piece. So that made sense to me. I hope that makes sense to you. And if you have any other questions, obviously you just leave a comment and I'll answer them. So I'll just end it with this. And I mean, how beautiful is that? I just love staring at that, you know? So it'll be exciting to see this piece fired, which will be in my next kiln unloading, which is like really soon. I have like a bunch of pots glazed. So anyway, have fun with this. Give it a try. And if you have questions, leave a comment and I will answer. Okay? Talk to you guys soon. Bye.